All right, in this video, we're going to look at solving trig equations, and their form is going to be quadratic trig equations. And we'll need our calculator for some of the problems, but not all, I don't think. Okay, so it says find all angles on the interval 0, where theta is in between 0 and 360 degrees that satisfy the equations below to the nearest tenth of a degree. So 16 secant squared minus 1 equals 0. The first thing we have to do is we always have to do the algebra first, and then we do the trig. I'm going to just, for writability's sake, replace that with an s. So this is 16s squared minus 1 equals 0. You add 1 to both sides, you get 16s squared equals 1. Divide by 16, divide by 16, you get s squared equals 1 over 16. And then by square rooting, we get that s is equal to a positive a fourth or negative a fourth. That was really a stand-in for secant. So now secant of theta equals a fourth, or secant of theta equals negative a fourth. But I'm going to convert this equation to its reciprocal. The reciprocal of secant is cosine, and the reciprocal of a fourth is 4. So this is the solutions to the equation above is going to be the same as the solutions to these two equations. But here we have a problem because cosine of theta can never be 4 or negative 4, because cosine of theta can only be between negative 1 and 1. You can think of the unit circle or the graphs, whatever makes you understand that idea, right? Cosine is the x-coordinate on the unit circle. The x-coordinate could never be bigger than 1 or less than 1. So that just tells us there's no solution to this original equation. Okay, let's move on to a different one. This one's going to involve a little bit more factoring. Let's replace the cosecant with a c to do the algebra first. So this is c squared minus 9c plus 20 equals 0. And we're going to have to factor using our algebra 2 skills. I believe this can factor into c minus 4, c minus 5. You can double check that. I think that's good. So that tells me that c equals 4 or c equals 5. So cosine of theta, cosecant, thinking of the last problem. Cosecant of theta equals 4 or cosecant of theta equals 5. Let's replace those with their reciprocal equations. So cosecant of theta equals 4. The reciprocal of cosecant is sine, so that means sine of theta equals 1/4. Let's start with that. So when you're doing a problem like this, one helpful thing to do is to note that, well, to remember your unit circles. So sine of theta equals a fourth. I'm going to draw a unit circle here. So here's the thing. I know that line's a little diagonal, but yeah, actually it's bothering me. Okay. Sine of an angle on the unit circle is always the y-coordinate. Is always the y-coordinate of the point on that unit circle. Sine is the y-coordinate. So this is asking what angle would bring you on the unit circle to a place where the y-coordinate is a fourth. Let's just draw that, right? So we draw that by indicate. So we're going to draw that with a horizontal line, right? The y-coordinate being a fourth would be like, again, this would be the point 0, 1 because we're on the unit circle. This is the line y equals a fourth. The angles that produce our solutions are the ones that would precisely get us here, right? So that angle there, and then also the one that takes you, what I'm going to do here in red, to it's not really catching the straight line. Sorry about that. Here, just try making it one more time. There we go. Okay, that angle there. So one thing to point out is that one of the answers is this one here, Okay, clearly that's going to be one of the answers. I'm going to call that theta 1. Theta 2 is this one in red. And that's the second answer. Notice that theta 2 is just 180 degrees minus theta 1. Okay, because right, these angles are identical in, right, these angles right here are both equal to theta 1. So our first answer is just going to be produced by doing sine inverse, but sine inverse is not going to produce both answers. So we got to be a little careful there. Okay, so theta 1, we're going to say theta 1 is equal to sine inverse of a fourth. Sine inverse of a fourth. Let's go find that on the calculator here. So we hit second sine inverse, oops, let's turn it on first. Second inverse of 1/4. I am in degree mode. 14.5 degrees. That means that theta 2, the second answer, is 180 degrees minus that. And that gives me about 165, or not about, it gives me 165.5 degrees. So there are two answers. Now again, those first two answers just came from this left side here, right? That just came from cosine of theta equals 4. Our second set of answers, or our second family of answers, is going to have to come from, let's use pink here. It's going to have to come from this equation. So its reciprocal there is sine of theta again. So we're looking at sine of theta equals a fifth. And again, I'm just going to indicate here that if I draw my unit circle here, okay, sine is the y coordinate on a unit circle. Where is the y coordinate equal to 1/5? Well, it's going to be roughly here. Should probably, that's not helping with the scale. I'm gonna make this not to scale. I know a fifth is clearly not there, but let's just pretend it is. This is, for our purposes, the line y equals a fifth. So the answers are going to be this angle here, this angle right here. That'll be the third answer in this whole set. The other answer, of course, is going to be found over here, right? If that's the reference angle, the second answer is going to be right when you rotate there, it's going to be 180 minus 180 minus what we get when we do theta 3. Okay, so that means, let's just zoom in here. So that means that our third answer is just sine inverse of a fifth. Again, one thing to keep in mind here is I'm assuming you've learned that sine inverse doesn't produce both answers, right? And there's ways to do this problem graphically. You'll note I'm not doing this problem graphically because even though I'm using a graphing calculator, I'm assuming that, or I'm showing you a way to do this problem without a graphing calculator. You know, not all, if you had a scientific calculator, you can't do the graphs. So in another video, I've done this problem by graphing, or problem similar by graphing. So theta 4 is going to be 180 minus 11.5 degrees. Okay, and that produces 168.5 degrees. Okay, so those are the other two answers. So there are 4 answers to this equation. Let's finish with this tangent one here. So I see that you kind of get the calculator out of the way there. Let's replace the tangents with a t. So this is 2t squared minus 5t plus 4 equals negative 8t plus 6. Let's try to do as much as we can in one fell swoop. So I'm going to add 8t to both sides. And I'm going to minus 6 from both sides. And that's going to give me 2t squared. This is a plus 3t. That's a minus 2. And I get a 0 over here. So we're back in the case where we need to factor. And after a little bit of thinking, I think you should be able to get that this factors to 2t minus 1 and t plus 2. can double check that. I think that's right. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of erase this because it's annoying me. Just give myself a little more space. Okay, so that tells us that t is equal to 1/2 by this arm, and this tells us t equals -2. T stood for tangent. Okay, so I'm really solving the equation tangent of theta equals 1/2. Okay, let's do that one first. When you think of tangent, the best way to think about it is, I would say the easiest way to think about it is to note that tangent of an angle is the slope of the line through the origin, right? That is equal to that value. So I'm going to draw a line through the origin that has a slope of 1/2. That probably looks something like this, maybe. Okay, let's just say that has a slope of 1/2. Okay, because the tangent is the slope through the origin. So my angles, therefore, that I'm looking for are right here, this angle here. So let's call that θ1. That's our answer. When we do tan inverse, we're going to get that answer. To get the other one, we're going to add 180 to that answer to get our other one. So 180 degrees plus θ1 is our second answer. Okay, so let's do that here. So we note that θ1 is equal to tan inverse of 1/2. We go to our calculator to get it. Tan inverse of 0.5. 26.6, we'll say. 26.6 degrees. And then therefore θ2 is 180 degrees plus that. So that's 206.6 degrees. Okay. All right, so that was the first family of solutions. Kind of invading too much space over here. I'm going to make myself have some more space by moving this around a little bit over here. So I'm going to move this. Move that out of the way. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. There. Okay, so let's deal with t equals 2 now. Actually, if I got an answer, I'm just going to give myself, I'm going to add another page. Just give myself a little bit more space. Okay. Okay, so now I've got that tangent of theta is equal to -2. Let's finish the problem by doing that one. So tangent of theta is equal to -2. Let's draw a line through the origin that has a plausible slope of -2. That's a steep slope. It's probably something like that, we'll say. Okay, so that's -2. Okay, so when we do tan inverse, the angle we're going to get is, we're going to get this angle here. Okay, that angle there is going to be θ1. The problem with that is it's a negative angle in our answer. If you look back, right, we were instructed to find angles in between 0 and 360. So I'll have to do a little adjustment there. One thing we'll do once we get that answer is we're going to add 180 to it. Right, so θ1 plus 180 degrees is going to give us our second answer. What we'll do for when we get θ1 is we're going to add 360 to this, okay, because that's going to give us a coterminal angle. It's going to give us a coterminal angle that's in the right interval. So let's do that. We've got that theta here is, or θ1 is equal to tan inverse of -2. So we go on our calculator and we do tan inverse of -2. Oops. Tan inverse of -2. So we get -63.4. I'm going to add 360 to that to put it in the right interval. That's 296.6 degrees. sorry, I should really indicate that what I did there, 296.6 degrees, and therefore theta 2 is going to be our tan inverse. Theta 2 is going to be tan inverse of negative 2 plus 180. Okay, so that equals, let's do that one more time, tan inverse of negative 2. Okay, and then we plus 180 there to get 116.6 degrees. And those are our 4 answers for that problem. Okay, so that was solving trigonometric equations that are presented in, kind of layered in with a quadratic. Okay, so that's why you get multiple answers. The key thing to note here is if you have a graphing calculator, you can do these problems by graphing, and I have another video where I show you how to do that. If you're using inverses, or if your teacher's making you use inverses, that's how I try to explain it in this video. You got to be aware of other quadrants where sine and these trig functions are positive, because there's always more than one, and your inverse buttons don't give you those. So you really need to draw the diagram like I drew those unit circles and reason from there. So good luck.